Did you know that some of the greatest missions of NASA has been their visits to Mars, which started on May 30th, 1971, when the successfully launched Mariner 9 probe became the first artificial satellite that went into orbit around the planet. But did you also know that just recently, NASA seems to have made up its mind to abandon its missions to Mars once and for all? But what prompted them to make this decision and call it quits after all these years of hard work? If you are curious to find out, then watch this video to the end. Also, please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. With that said, let's jump right in. Coming to the point, NASA seems to have abandoned its mission to Mars after almost a 17-year gap since the last mission to the Red Planet on September 25th, 1992, and here's the reason why. You see, what led to this decision was that the mission controllers at the agency's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California were unable to contact NASA's Mars lander designed to explore the Martian interior, the InSight rover, which stands for Interior Exploration Using Seismic Investigations, after December 15th, which meant that the lander had missed 2 consecutive communications. According to reports, InSight missed its first planned communication session on December 18th, whereas NASA did not disclose when the second miscommunication session was scheduled. This led mission controllers at the agency's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California to conclude that the spacecraft's solar panel batteries must have run out of energy, a state they referred to as a dead bus. This was a grave situation because NASA had previously decided to declare the mission of exploring Mars to be over if the lander missed 2 communication attempts, and this is exactly what they did. But if you were wondering, why did the power batteries of the spacecraft run out in the first place? The project leaders, who had been closely monitoring power levels on the spacecraft since last year, announced that sadly, the reason for the spacecraft's power levels dying out was due to the dust that had started to accumulate on the spacecraft's solar arrays over the years, which had greatly diminished the power of these solar arrays could generate for the spacecraft. To give you a clearer picture, the same arrays that had produced 5,000 watt-hours of power at the beginning of the mission dropped to just 700 watt-hours in June 2021. And finally, on December 12th, power levels had dropped to 285 watt-hours, a point where the spacecraft could no longer communicate with Earth. Engineers at NASA, however, did not give up that easily, and made several attempts to try and remove the accumulated dust, including using the lander's robotic arms to scoop up regolith and dump it near the arrays, allowing some windborne particles to bounce off the arrays and, in the process, remove dust. This process is called saltation, and it did boost power levels slightly on the arrays, but it was not a long-term solution, and this is what made NASA announce that they were aborting the mission once and for all. We made the decision that collecting data on Mars is the reason we're here, so even though we could extend the life of the mission, it doesn't make any sense if you're not getting any data. But hey, the end of the mission does not mean that Mars exploration and the wonderful discoveries by NASA's InSight are lost as well. As Thomas Zurbuchen, Associate Administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate in Washington, has stated that, "I watched the launch and landing of this mission. While saying goodbye to a spacecraft is always sad, the fascinating insight and science that InSight conducted is cause for celebration." And if you're curious about some of the amazing discoveries made by NASA's space missions to Mars, don't worry, we got you covered. The lander data has not only yielded details about Mars' interior layers, the surprisingly strong remnants beneath the surface of its extinct magnetic dynamo, and weather on this part of Mars, but has also detailed a lot of quake activity going on beneath the planet's surface. The highly sensitive seismometer of the lander, along with the daily monitoring performed by the French space agency Centre National des Études Spatiales and the Marsquake service managed by ETH Zurich, detected 1,319 Marsquakes, including quakes caused by meteoroid impacts, the largest of which unearthed boulder-sized chunks of ice late last year. What's amazing about these quakes and Marsquakes is that such quakes play a paramount role in helping scientists to determine the age of a planet's surface, which is a huge thing in space discoveries. As you would probably know if you've been following our other videos so far. However, if you've missed out, don't worry, you still have time to browse through them. What's more is that the data from the seismometer also provides scientists a way to study the planet's crust, mantle, and core, which is again a crucial step forward that helps to determine the habitability of human life on planets other than our own Earth. This thought is reiterated by Philippe Lejeune of Institut de Physique du Globe de Paris, principal investigator of InSight Seismometer, who proudly states that, with InSight, seismology was the focus of a mission beyond Earth for the first time since the Apollo missions, when astronauts brought seismometers to the moon. We broke new ground, and our science team can be very proud of all that we've learned along the way. A fun fact is that the seismometer of the spacecraft did not power off, and amazingly is the last science instrument that remained powered on even as the dust started to accumulate on the lander's solar panels, gradually reducing its energy levels. There is no doubt a great feat, and Laurie Lechen, director of JPL, which manages the building of the InSight spacecraft, including its cruise stage and lander, and supports the spacecraft operation for the mission, strongly agrees to this. She opines, InSight has more than lived up to its name. As a scientist who spent a career studying Mars, it's been a thrill to see what the lander has achieved. Thanks to an entire team of people across the globe who helped make this mission a success. Ending with, yes, it's sad to say goodbye, but InSight's legacy will live on, informing and inspiring. Bruce Bandert of JPL, the mission's principal investigator, also adds that, we've thought of InSight as our friend and colleague on Mars for the past 4 years, so it's hard to say goodbye, but it has earned its richly deserved retirement, and no doubt this effort needs to be acknowledged. Even though NASA seems to have abandoned its mission to Mars, with its engineers stating that they will cease sending commands to all of its missions on and at Mars through mid-October 2nd and 16th, though a few will extend to that day, or depending on the angular distance between Mars and the Sun in Earth's sky, the good news is that the agency has also stated that they nonetheless will still try to continue to listen for a signal from the lander, just in case, even though hearing it at this point is considered unlikely. Though our Mars missions won't be active these next few years, they will still let us know the state of their health, said Roy Gladden, manager of Mars Relay Network at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Each mission has been given some homework to do until they hear from us again. With that said, what do you think of this decision? Do you think that NASA did the right thing by just letting the mission go on after all these years? Or do you think scientists at NASA should put some effort and build a new spacecraft to help them continue their journey to Mars and the wonderful discoveries that are still hidden from us as of now? Let us know in the comment section below. And also, if you enjoyed watching this video, press the like button and tap subscribe to stay notified and keep watching amazing space videos on our channel. See you in the next video.